Well, hello there, my fellow rushers. How are you doing today? King Rex here. And today, look at that, we have another hero idea. And yeah, I'm gonna be making a review on it. We have this beautiful hero design that was sent to me by a person on Discord going by the name of Sergeant S. And he wanted me to review his hero idea for Kingdom Rush Origins, I believe. This is a completely original hero, and I would love to see how he looks like. The name is Narcissius. Narcissus? I'm not quite sure if I'm pronouncing it properly, but I'm gonna call him Narcissus. If I'm pronouncing him wrong, then forgive me. The Embodiment of Terror. Jesus, that's a scary title. And there's a quote on the top, "Death has come to your town." I suppose that's the quote when you pick him up. Like when you select him in the hero room, maybe that's what he says, or something. And here's the reference image for Narcissius. And he looks pretty scary, yeah, for an embodiment of terror. Yeah, he definitely looks terrifying. I think that's a boss, though. I think that's a boss from Binding of Isaac. I remember that there was this update called Revelation, or maybe it was some sort of mod, I don't remember, but what I remembered is that there was this mirror room, and after you break in it, you fight this thing. I think it was on the second time you fight him, he appears like that. I remember that he was very... the only thing that I remember about him was that he was very difficult to beat. Not much else. But yeah, that's a nice reference. If I haven't played Binding of Isaac, I will not be able to get it. So, that's interesting. And now, without any further ado, let's dive into the description of Narcissus. And let's see what we have up in here. What do we have to work with? Alright, time to start. Description. Narcissus is a monstrous beast whose immense power can easily overpower any mere mortal. He is surprisingly endurable for a being of glass-like appearance, and he can withstand the hardest of punishments without a single scratch. Despite his beastly appearance, he is clearly not mindless, as it's capable of talking, and as it will gladly accept the offer of fighting for Lineria, under the promise of great feasts and greater riches. Narcissus was once a brave warrior, and the leader of a noble guild titled Order of the White Sun, who traveled the lands to bring peace by bringing evildoers to justice. He and his guild were respected and prized by everyone, and they were invited to many royal celebrations because of their nobility. And because of his strength, courage, and leadership skills, Narcissus was offered the title Narcissus the Invincible. One day, the Order of the White Sun was hired by the ruler of a distant town to hunt down and capture an old witch, who was hunted by many other men, and all of which were never to be seen again. After a while of searching, the men found the house of the old witch out in a distant bog, who, when they broke into and entered her house, instantly fired a magical sphere that hit Narcissus, triggering a magical explosion that hit all of his soldiers. The men's bodies started feeling stiff, and after a short while, they were all laying on the floor, turned into glass bodies. The witch transported all the men into a deep fissure in a nearby area, starting to push them down one by one. Narcissus watched as his men were thrown down a deep hole, their glass bodies likely to shatter on the impact below, and after the witch pushed all of Narcissus' men down, she saved him for last. And then, the witch pushed Narcissus into the fissure. He was so stiff, so helpless, so fragile. And then, once he hit the bottom, something miraculous happened. He didn't shatter. It felt like days. He was laying on the ground, shattered pieces of glass were all over the ground, all of which were likely other people trying to capture the witch. And when everything seemed hopeless, a small, glowing white butterfly landed onto Narcissus' chest. After it, another butterfly landed onto his face. One by one, hundreds of butterflies swarmed around Narcissus. The shattered pieces of glass started flying around the depths of the pit. And after the situation calmed down, Narcissus stood back up. Wait, he stood back up? He Yes, indeed. Narcissus had a real body again, but it wasn't his body. He was taller, bulkier, and more rigid than any man alive. Narcissus was revived as a giant, beastly glass golem. Not only he didn't look human, he possessed mighty strength and stamina, being able to climb out of the fissure with his bare hands with ease. Narcissus, who was once a great and noble warrior, grew to become a menace. Partly because of his curse, partly because of the spite from the brutal murders of all of his men. The butterflies and that aided Narcissus became a nomen, and if the butterflies came to a town or a city, Narcissus was sure to come around shortly. And then, he would ravage the town, devour all the town's food, snatch the town's riches, and was not afraid to feast upon any mere person who tried to stop him. He was fully consumed by greed and gluttony, and became a mindless beast who only knows destruction and evil. And when the people realized that the monster was actually Narcissius, cursed and twisted, they dubbed the man, once known as Narcissus the Invincible, to Narcissus the Inevitable. One day, Narcissus was rampaging through a forest, crushing down trees and feasting upon the wild animals in the forest. He stumbled upon a mysterious camp owned by a band of bandits. Blinded by his rage, he rushed towards the camp, crushing tents beneath his feet, bashing bandits around and pillaging all of their loot. Suddenly, a mysterious cloaked figure appeared in front of him. The figure did not say a word, but it handed Narcissus a bottle filled with a strange concoction. At first, he didn't bat an eye on it and slashed in its direction, but it didn't even leave a scratch on it. The mysterious figure seemed to insist on Narcissus drinking the concoction, and shortly, he accepted. For the first time since he could remember, Narcissus didn't choose extreme violence and destruction, but instead accepted the figure's offer. He drank from the bottle and suddenly he collapsed in a deep sleep. Narcissus woke up in the ruins of an old village, with no people in sight. The butterflies who aided him suddenly appeared and flew rapidly to a faraway place, seemingly warning Narcissus to follow. He was not hesitant to follow them, but he felt differently. He felt like a man and not a monster. Rage that blinded him for so long seemingly disappeared, and he realized the destruction he's done upon everyone he came across. The butterflies guided him to a ruined castle, in the center of which stood a large mirror. The mirror was completely untouched, and when Narcissus looked into it, he saw a vision of everything he's done. Families he's broken, the ones he left in tears, the towns he destroyed, and darkness he's brought upon the land. He realized that, in order to retrieve peace back into the land, he had to cleanse his bad name. He traveled great distances in order to end the evil and to become a proud protector he once was. Although darkness never left Narcissus, and every once in a while it erupted out and returned him to his beastly consciousness, which still showed his soul is not pure anymore, and erupting in his monstrous state could taint his reputation even further. Alright then, well, that was a very good backstory. I really liked it. Pretty interesting, short, but sweet. Well, not really, because, you know, this is a story about a man who was turned into a glass golem, but still, pretty good story. From a, you know, in my opinion, that's a pretty good one. It's not like as good as it could have been, but still, I would say this is a good story. I like the character development, pretty nice. I don't know what the butterflies part was, like why exactly butterflies, but I guess it will make sense later. Maybe we'll have some of his primal, you know, primal rage thingy into his abilities, because as the story goes, he still has a part of his you know, curse lingering around him, so he can still get angry and, you know, unleash a ton of damage or something. I don't know. We'll get to the abilities in a bit, but first of all, let's take a look at the stats. He made an effort to put every statistics for every single one of his levels, which is very nice attention to detail. You're definitely getting a positive points for me, but, you know, people want to see the hero at level 10, so we're gonna jump right into the level 10. Keep in mind that I've seen all of the stats for all of his levels, so I've read them. Don't worry about that. So, level 10. He has 650 HP. Not bad. Heal rate of 38 seconds though, so he's gonna take somewhere around 17-ish seconds to fully heal, which is not bad. I mean, it's not great, but it's better than something atrocious like Grog, who takes like 30 seconds. So it's not bad. It's a decent health rate. Damage. Area physical damage. That's good, so he deals area damage. 46 to 72, with attack speed of 1.6. Okay, let me just bring in the calculator real quick. So, 72 minus 46 is obviously 26. Divided by 2, you get 13. Combine it with 46, and you get 59. Now, divided by the attack rate, which is 1.6, and his average damage is 36.8. So 36.8 damage on average, which is pretty darn decent. It's kind of like a level 2 or 3 artillery. Not bad. Sure, it is physical damage, so you have to keep that in mind, but still, that's not bad. That's a pretty decent amount of area damage that he can do. If you're having like a horde of low tier enemies, he can deal with them pretty fine. Now, he didn't specify the area amount. I would assume it's a small area of effect. I don't think it's like gonna be as OP as like Ice Cold's AoE, but still, I would assume it is a small area damage, something like Raz and Rax or what was his name? I can't remember of the hero that dealt area damage. Maybe something like Phoenix. I don't know. But the important part is that he deals area damage, so he's obviously gonna be much better against hordes of enemies rather than single targets. But speaking of single target damage, he has a somewhat of a decent durability due to his 55% armor, which in total means that he has 1444.4 efficient HP. I'm not quite sure if that was intentional, but cool. His speed is slow, so we don't have any specifics. I would assume something like Malik's levels of speed, because, you know, he's a golem, so he's gonna take a while to move. And respawn 24 seconds. Kind of harsh respawn rate, but there's probably a reason why he has such a, you know, big, there's probably a reason why he has such a long respawn rate. And it's probably something to do with the abilities, which we'll get in a minute. And also we have this. Narcissius uses his large arms to attack, which deal physical area damage. So he's attacking with his arms, so he's smacking people. Cool. Good to know. And now we have the skills. Inevitable. Secondary passive skill. Unupgradable. Wait, what? Secondary? You mean that this is a passive ability? Alright, I guess. Secondary passive skill. So it's unupgradable, yeah, obviously, it's an innate. When an enemy is killed near Narcissus, a glass butterfly will start floating above him for the maximum of 6 butterflies. When Narcissus enters a melee combat with an enemy, all butterflies will fly towards and crash onto it, dealing between 42 to 78 true damage on impact. God damn. Well, that's awesome. I mean, yeah, sure, that's a really good combination because of his area. Due to his area damage, he can kill quite a bit of enemies. Now the question is, is this something like an area, or does it only work for the enemy that he's currently stalling? Because let's say he kills 2 enemies. Is he gonna receive 1 butterfly or 2 butterflies? Whatever the case, the damage from the butterflies is pretty solid. That's a total of 60 average true damage per killed enemy. That's pretty nice. Especially if you have 6 butterflies, it's gonna help him out drastically against heavy or more tanky enemies like Twilight Avengers, Mounted Avengers, Golems even. This is gonna help out quite a bit. It's quite a nice addition. Very interesting skill. I like the originality. It's something like the Bruxa's innate ability where she can get skulls per enemy that dies near her. But in this case, he has to kill the enemy in order to receive the butterflies. So if he's like in a choke point and you have a lot of towers there, it's gonna be kind of difficult to obtain butterflies. So you may wanna put him combine him with reinforcements to isolate a couple enemies in order to get butterflies. Which will be pretty interesting. Or, you know what, nah, it doesn't matter. You can keep him in a choke point because I just realized that it says when an enemy is killed near Narcissus. Oh my god. I can't read today, man. God damn. So yeah, apologies for this segment. It was atrocious. Anyway, let's move on to the secondary skill. Nemesis. It's an active skill that has 16 seconds cooldown. Narcissus locks eyes onto an enemy in a moderate radius, then rushes recklessly onto it. When it gets close enough to the enemy, he performs a grand slam attack that deals 172, 276, and then 380 single target true damage. If the target enemy is killed before Narcissus gets to it, he will stop in place and perform a tantrum if his tantrum skill is upgraded. Tantrum, oh yeah, that's the bottom one, but we'll get to him in a tick. So yeah, it costs 2, 2, and an additional 3 hero points. The enemy targeted by Nemesis are marked by a crosshair, similar to the one that Dante uses with his Silver Bullet skill. Well, 2 things. 1, that's a pretty darn good ability. 16 seconds cooldown for 380 true damage. That's a lot, man. I mean, if we do the numbers, that's 23.7 true damage per second. That's pretty good. That's pretty darn solid. And I really like how he has an indicator, like that crosshair. It's pretty good because that way you know which enemy he's targeting. That's nice. I wonder if his AI is smart, because it locks eyes onto an enemy, so I guess it's just an enemy, and I guess it's just a random enemy in his radius. I'm not quite sure if it's like smart targeting or what, but still, that's nice. And I like how if he fails to perform it, he activates another ability. Which, speaking of which, let's get to it. I don't have much to say about Nemesis, just great skill all around. Let's get into Tantrum. Active skill, cooldown 16 seconds, again, similar to Nemesis, interesting. If an enemy manages to damage Narcissus past 60% of his maximum HP, alright, Narcissus will trigger a Tantrum. A single Tantrum will cause Narcissus to strike the ground 4 times, dealing 47, 60, and then 72 physical area damage per strike. It's gonna cost 1, 1, and an additional 1 hero point. The Tantrum takes 3.2 seconds to fully unload, my bad. 0.8 seconds per strike. The Tantrum can be interrupted by moving Narcissus to a new location. If Narcissus targets an enemy with his Nemesis skill, and the targeted enemy is defeated before he gets to perform the Nemesis attack, Tantrum will be triggered instantly. Well, that's pretty darn good. So he deals 72 damage per strike for every... So yeah, that's a grand total of 288 physical damage. And that's not a small amount of physical damage. That's a pretty decent amount. Sure, 3.2 seconds, yeah, he's gonna take a little bit to execute. But as long as you have barracks to support him, I'm pretty sure he's gonna be able to do a lot of area damage. What you can do is, I think a good strategy will be to just use the Tantrum, and then let him use his Nemesis skill. And then, if he fails, he's gonna activate it again. And 288 times 2, that's a pretty good number, and that's 576 physical damage, which is pretty good. I like the Tantrum ability, pretty nice. And I like how you can interrupt it, because one thing that I really hate about, well, not in Origins, but in Frontiers, is that Shatura, in particular, when he activates an ability, he gets locked into his animation and you can't move him, which can cause you to lose lives. So it's nice that you can interrupt his animation if you want him to, like, stall another enemy, or if you need to move him to another location in an emergency, or if you just want to use some of his other abilities. That's pretty cool. Alright, moving on to So Monolith. Active skill, cooldown 35 seconds. Oh, this should be a good one for such a long cooldown. Narcissus summons a Soul Monolith on the path, which emits an aura that depletes the HP of all surrounding enemies for 5% of their max HP per second, while they are around the monolith. Additionally, the monolith fires off a laser every 2 seconds that deals 90 to 120 and 150 true damage per laser. The monolith remains on the path for 8, 12, and then 16 seconds. God damn. It's gonna cost 2, 3, and an additional 3 hero points. Narcissus summons the monolith in a similar way that the tribal axe thrower summons their totems. Alright, so he's gonna put it like, alright, yeah, I get the idea. The lasers fired off by the monolith are similar in appearance to lasers fired by the Sunray Tower. Well, that's cool. And it's a pretty darn strong ability. So 5% of the enemy's HP is gonna get depleted, just like that, per second, man. Like, does that mean what I think it is? Because if it does, then it's a killing machine, man. Like, Jesus, 5% of the max HP per second. So in total, you're gonna need to for 10 seconds, you're gonna remove a lot of HP. Like, damn. Do you realize how much that is? Like, let's do the calculation. 16. So if let's say you have like how do I put it? Let's say we have a golem. We have a golem, all right, and he's staying, and you activate the soul monolith. What you can do is keep him in there for as long as you can, and if you keep him for the max duration, 80% of his HP disappears just like that. This is a pretty crazy ability, and the fact that he shoots lasers, that's pretty good. Like 150 true damage every couple of seconds. That's a pretty nice addition. That just makes the ability even stronger. I really like how that it lasts for 16 seconds though. That means that for slightly below half of the time, the ability is gonna be up, which is very nice. Now, as far as the targeting goes, he's gonna be targeting enemies that are the furthest away from him, which kind of sucks. I would assume that the way you're supposed to do it is something like Lilith. You know how Lilith usually uses her Inferno Wheel like way too early? What you can do is put him slightly behind the choke point and let him use the Soul Monolith and let him put the Soul Monolith right at the choke point. So that way you can keep the enemies in there and let their health just disappear. Like this is a pretty strong ability. And it's not broken, because it requires a lot of skill to be used properly. You have to make sure that the enemies are staying for the full 16 seconds in order to get the maximum efficiency. And that could be pretty hard to do, like stalling enemies for 16 seconds straight without moving. That's a pretty hard task. So I like the ability. It sounds broken at first glance, but then you realize how much micro and skill you need in order to make it super good. So I like that. Very interesting ability. I would say maybe it's even better than the Tantrum. But I don't know. We have to see the other abilities first. Moving on. We have Wretched Feast, which is a passive skill. When Narcissus defeats an enemy in melee combat, he will cannibalize his victim, healing him for 50, 60, and then 70 HP. It's gonna cost 1, and an additional 2 hero points. The animation of Narcissus devouring his victim lasts for 1.6 seconds. His animation can be interrupted by moving him out to a near location. However, Narcissus will not recover health if the animation is interrupted. That's an interesting one. So it takes 1.6 seconds, which is the exact amount that he needs to recharge his attack. Well, that's good. You know, by the time he cannibalizes his victim, he's gonna be able to attack again right away. So it's not bad. If it took like a little bit longer, maybe I would want to move him more often. But it is nice, like, if he drops to very low HP, which, you know, his efficient HP is not terrible, but in comparison to other heroes and Origins like Lyn and Eridan and even Bruce, his efficient HP is slightly lower than theirs. So, because of that is a pretty nice one. Even though 70 HP may not be all that much if you're fighting like a Golem, Avenger, Heretic, stuff like that, it's still some decent boost. But he has to kill he has to be the one to kill the enemy. I would assume it's something like the Blazing Gem, where he will not perform the unstable power ability if the enemy that is killed by another source. Because basically the way the Blazing Gem works with his unstable power, where he deals area damage, he needs to kill the enemy that he's targeting. If he doesn't, then guess what? You're not gonna get the explosion. So I assume that's how the Wretched Feast works. Like if he's fighting an enemy but he doesn't land the final blow, he's not gonna cannibalize him. I would assume that's how it works. So it takes a little bit of skill to do, but it could be useful. You know, every now and then you can heal 70 HP just like that. Considering the fact that his regeneration is not like the greatest, that's actually pretty nice. It kind of makes up for his kind of slow regeneration. So that is a nice addition. It's not as OP as the others, but hey, it has a good excuse to not be like as OP, because Soul Monolith and the Tantrum are pretty darn good abilities. So yeah, it makes sense. And now we're moving on to the last ability, which of course is the ultimate, my favorite ones. Ultimate abilities. Beast Mode. The ultimate skill. 65 seconds of cooldown. Alright, that's a good amount. Upon activation, Narcissus will enter Beast Mode and transform into a larger and more vile version of himself, and will start rampaging around and killing everything in his path. God damn, that's a promising description. He becomes invulnerable to all damage, dealing 150, 175, and then 200 single target physical damage per attack with 0.8 second attack speed. What? And will insta-kill any enemy with 100 health or less. His beast mode lasts for 14, 16, and 18 seconds. Honestly, I can't be asked to calculate how many hero points do I need here. Sorry, not sorry. It's okay, but holy crap! Do you realize how strong this thing is, man? No wonder it has a long cooldown, Jesus. So, we're talking about 200 physical damage every 0.8 seconds. Do you realize that? Like 200 divided by 0.8, that's 250 damage per second. 250 damage. That's more than literally anything. None of the heroes have such a high DPS. I mean, sure, it is physical damage, which means that against armored enemies it's gonna be less good, but still, that's so much. And it lasts for 18 seconds, which is not bad. Like, sure, it doesn't even last for like a third of the cooldown, but it is understandable. Look at how strong this thing is. Like, let's say the ability had something like 40 seconds cooldown, then it will be broken, because he can pretty much stay into his beast mode half the time. But because it has a long cooldown, it makes sense that the ability should be very strong. It's something like, what was this called? The Dark Pact from Vesnon. Basically Vesnon's ultimate ability, where the demon is like super strong, but he takes like an eternity to come back. This is kind of similar, but in a different way. Instead of summoning a unit that is very strong, he turns into a much stronger version. Like, as I said, 250 physical damage per second, and he kills enemies with 100 health or less, which I guess is nice. I don't really get why he added that insta-kill part. I mean, it doesn't really matter if he's still gonna one-shot them, even if it wasn't quote-unquote an insta-kill. It kind of feels a little bit meh, like an unnecessary addition. If anything, I would love to increase his movement speed a little bit. Maybe go from slow to medium, just, you know, to make it a little bit better, but still. This is a very strong ability. I would definitely use that for bosses. Imagine how good this is going to be against bosses. He doesn't say that he gets more health or anything. I would assume that his health stays the same. So yeah, I wonder if it heals him though. Probably no, but still, it would be nice if he could heal himself when he, like, it would be nice if he got full health back from transforming into his beast mode. Something like Mergosa's beast form in a way. Something like that. But still, this ability, muy bien. 10 out of 10. Alright, maybe 9.5, but still. Very good one. I would have given it 10 out of 10 if you have given it a little bit of a hero points and maybe some notes, but still. Pretty darn good. And that's all of the abilities. Wonderful. Now let's move on to the last paragraph, which is the voice lines and the explanation of the hero. Voice lines. I also included some voice lines. Goddamn, I can't speak. I also included some voice lines the hero could say, as I find listening to them extremely amusing. No more dreams. History will forget about you. Death has come to your town. No one escapes death. And then the death quote, or just death. I'm gonna live forever. Sorry, my deep voice is not like great, but still. I'm trying to imagine how he will sound like. I mean, embodiment of terror, you would imagine some terrifying and deep voice, right? That's what everyone thinks. So yeah, interesting voice lines. Pretty good. I thought that death has come to your town was a quote that he will say when he... Like, I thought it was a unique quote, but apparently no. Doesn't matter. Now let's read through the explanation of Sergeant S as to why he created Narcissius. But before that, let me take some water because goddamn that was a lot of reading. Okay, now let's read through it. I wanted to create a hero that I would have fun with. I combined ideas from some of my favorite heroes such as Kaz and Dante in order to create a powerful hero that requires careful micro to be used effectively, but not as much as Durax or Captain Blackthorn. Narcissus is a bulky hero that will deal much damage with his basic attacks, that will convert into even more damage with his inevitable skill. Tantrum is a skill that will rarely be used because an armored hero like Narcissus will not likely be put into a state of critical health. Wretched Feast is a skill that will further add to Narcissus' enduring ability. And so Monolith is a nice quick skill that will occasionally provide extra damage. His ultimate skill is a nice way to get out of a close battle at the choke point and will grant him immense power. Overall, I think Narcissus is a pretty good hero as my first ever concept, and if I will ever do more, I hope to improve in the future. Well, that's a pretty good explanation. Well done, Sergeant. Well done. Well done, sir. You did a good job. I would say that your hero design is quite beautiful. I really like how you added that combination of Kaz and Dante, where you need to micromanage this hero in order to be strong. And it shows, like, these abilities are great. His statistics are pretty balanced, I would say. Good amount of efficient HP, a pretty reasonable area damage, a little bit of a slow respawn rate, yeah, but it makes sense for how much power this guy delivers. Like, I think the bullet flies are... If I have to rank all the skills, like, the inevitable is pretty nice. It's just a nice way to deal some extra true damage. The Nemesis is very strong because it has a short cooldown and it deals extreme single target damage. And if he fails, he's gonna trigger the Tantrum, which, if you try to trigger the Tantrum normally, it's probably not gonna happen because it will be pretty hard for enemies to get them below 60% HP. I mean, I can see it happening in situations where he is fighting enemies that deal magic damage or enemies that deal armor-piercing damage, aka true damage. But for the most part, he'll probably never trigger Tantrum naturally. If anything, he'll trigger it if Nemesis fails to, you know, be fully executed. And yeah, as far as the Soul Monolith goes, I think it's a little bit OP. I mean, 80% of the enemy's HP just gone in 16 seconds. But it actually isn't. It isn't OP. Like, sure, 80% HP, 80% of the total HP gone is awesome. But you need to keep enemies for 16 seconds, which balances it out quite a bit. And that extra damage, like 150 true damage every 2 seconds. Let me just see, so... If he shoots every 2 seconds, that means that he's gonna shoot 8 times in total. So 150 times 8, that's a total of 1200 true damage. Just like that. Now the targeting, I'm not quite sure if it's different. I would assume it targets first, just like any tower in Kingdom Rush. I would say that's gonna be very good for golems. Like, golems, usually they have 5000 HP on Impossible mode. And if you keep them in the range of the Soul Monolith for like 16 seconds somehow, the golem is pretty much dead. He's gone. Imagine if you keep multiples. Alright, maybe not multiples, it's gonna be too hard, but still. Very good ability. I would say that's my favorite one. Wretched Feast is nice. As he said, it's a nice way to make him more durable. I really like it. It's a nice small addition, which kind of compensates for his kind of slow regeneration. And the Beast Mode is just, honestly, a great ability. I really love it. Man, you did an amazing job with this hero. I am satisfied. I'm giving this guy a solid 9.5 out of 10. Very strong hero. I would say he's probably somewhere around the early 20s, or maybe like, let's say that we have all the heroes in the one tier list, just like the Duke. I would say he's probably somewhere around the 20s or top 10s even, because this guy is strong. But the only reason why he is very strong. The only reason why he is very strong is because of the sheer power of the abilities, but also he requires a lot of micro. He really reminds me of Kaz in a way, because I use Kaz a lot, and I'm kinda good with him. I've learned over the years how to use him to the best of my abilities, and I would love to play with this hero. Like, Ironhide, if you're watching this, please make Narcissus into a hero. I would love to play with this guy. Like, that's the type of hero that I enjoy. Strong and independent hero that has a lot of micro involvement. I mean, not as much as Durax, because Durax is just for the chads only, but still. This hero is beautiful. Sergeant S, I salute you, man. You did a great job. And yeah, guys, well, that's gonna do it for the whole review. Keep in mind, if you want to see your hero, if you have a hero idea, or a hero rework of an already existing hero in any Kingdom Rush game, just send it to me on Discord or through my server, and I will make sure to address it at one point into the future. Because I love to see more hero ideas like those. Like it's just great, man. I love this hero. I'm in love. And yeah, with that out of the way, that's gonna do it for the video. Thank you everybody so much for watching. I appreciate you for sticking around to the end. Subscribe if you want to see more of this content in the future. And while you're at it, drop a like on the video. It means a lot to me. And I will see you in the next video. Until it comes, that was King Rexy, over and out.